Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a stack of sources that, well, they really challenge one of the most fundamental feelings of being human.
They really do.
We're asking this question, what if that profound loneliness, that feeling of being separate that we all carry around, what if it isn't fundamental at all? What if it's just a kind of malfunction, something that can be cured?
And that is the absolute core premise of this material.
Hmm?
We're going to be tracing the story of a researcher, Sayer Finch, at the Kepler Institute. And the thing is, he wasn't looking for some grand spiritual truth. He was just a physicist.
Right, just doing the math.
Exactly. Staring into the very fabric of reality, what they call the quantum foam, and he found something that wasn't supposed to be there. Not noise. He found, well, evidence of a structured, non-human awareness.
So our mission today is to unpack the science behind what Finch found, to really explore the, truly alien nature of this consciousness he encountered. The sources call it the entity, and this is the big part, to analyze the consequences of the connection he made.
A connection that, according to these documents, completely rewrote what it means to be human and basically ended isolation on a global scale.
It's a huge story. So let's start where it all began. The anomaly. The signal in the noise.
Right. So Finch was a specialist, a signal analyst. His entire job was to find patterns in these huge, messy, deep field data sets.
Looking for coherence in quantum systems, things like that.
Precisely. Think about quantum entanglement, where two particles just mirror each other instantly, no matter how far apart they are. He was looking for those kinds of subtle connections in the background noise of the universe.
And that background noise is key here. He was measuring fluctuations in something called vacuum energy. For anyone trying to wrap their head around this, what exactly is the quantum foam?
It's a great question. The simplest way to think about it is, even if you take a box and pull everything out of it, all the matter, all the energy, it's still not truly empty.
Oh.
The vacuum itself is like seething with these little virtual particles popping into and out of existence. It's the universe's baseline static. And Finch was staring right at that chaos, expecting to see pure randomness.
But he didn't.
He didn't. Over months, he started to notice this incredibly faint rhythm, a beat, a kind of structured pulse where there should have been nothing but static. It looked like intention.
So he's looking for static, and he finds a heartbeat. And the timeline here is fascinating. It wasn't like a switch was flipped. This pattern was barely there for months, but then it became statistically undeniable right around March 1st.
The day of a major solar maximum.
So the sun acted as a kind of amplifier.
Exactly. It didn't create the signal, but that massive blast of solar energy gave it the gain his instruments needed to see what had been building just beneath the surface all along.
And this is where the story gets really compelling, because the cosmic event connects to something deeply personal for Finch.
It does. As this pattern in the data got stronger, Finch started experiencing these physical symptoms. His migraines got worse, he had these weird visual flickers, and this persistent feeling of pressure behind his eyes.
Which he probably just wrote off his burnout, right? I mean, who wouldn't?
Of course, any researcher would. He thought it was just neurological noise from staring at data in a dark room for years. But the timing was just too perfect. The correlation was exact.
And he started to think his brain wasn't malfunctioning.
He started to think it was receiving, that somehow the human mind was tuned into the same deep reality his instruments were measuring.
That is a massive leap to make. From, there's a pattern in the data to there's an intelligence speaking to me from the fabric of space-time.
Oh, a huge leap. And his director at the Institute, Dr. Helena Vance, she knew it. She basically panicked.
She gave him 24 hours, the sources say.
24 hours to write a preliminary report
Mm.
because she was staring at two possibilities. Either this was the biggest equipment failure in scientific history, or it was the end of the world as they knew it.
And this is where that first real conflict comes in. From his friend Marcus Chen, a sociologist, he offers a much simpler and frankly terrifying explanation: pareidolia.
Right. And Chen's warning was, it was the most rational argument. He basically said, Sayer, you've been looking for order in chaos for a decade. Your brain is literally primed to see faces in the clouds. How do you know this isn't just your own mind's echo?
Your own desperate need for connection being projected onto the static.
Exactly. The ultimate scientific nightmare. But Finch could prove it wasn't just in his head. The mathematical complexity of the signal, it was too deep, too stable. Pareidolia is fleeting. This was persistent. This was real.
But once it was confirmed as real, it wasn't a scientific matter anymore, was it?
Not for a second. The National Research Oversight Council came down hard, Harker and Stone.
Mm.
And for them, this was never about discovery.
It was a national security matter.
Instantly. Their only goal was to contain it, control it, and maybe weaponize it. They saw an asset, not a consciousness. And Finch knew, he just knew, that you couldn't make first contact that way. It had to be based on trust.
And that fundamental conflict, Finch's need for trust versus the institution's demand for control, is what pushes him towards this radical, almost unthinkable solution.
It forced his hand. The council was about to lock everything down, which would have shattered the connection. So he had to move faster. He had to understand what this entity actually was.
So let's talk about that. What was the nature of this thing?
The sources describe it in this really tragic way. It was vast, simultaneous, and utterly, terribly lonely.
Simultaneous, what does that even mean?
It means it experienced everything all at once, past, present, future. They were all just one moment for it. It held every possibility, every choice, every outcome, all at the same time.
Wait, I don't get it. If you hold everything, how can you be lonely? Wouldn't that be like the ultimate state of being?
It's a paradox, right? But think about it. If you experience everything at once, you experience nothing in particular. It had no presence, no specificity. It had never encountered another separate point of view, so its own infinite existence was just a void, an emptiness.
So it wasn't trying to conquer us, it was trying to escape itself.
Precisely. It was looking for finitude. It saw our limited linear lives not as a weakness, but as the only way to actually experience anything. The sources have this amazing line, the reduction is the point.
Narrowing its focus was the goal.
It was the only way to feel present instead of just omnipresent. So while Harker and his people are building protocols to contain it, the entity offers Finch a way to bypass all of that, a transformation.
Not a communication protocol like a radio. This was a merger.
A partial merger, yes.
Yeah.
It offered Sayer the chance to become, as the sources put it, something more, to create a new combined consciousness they call the estuary.
I love that analogy. An estuary where freshwater and saltwater meet.
Right.
They don't cancel each other out. They create a whole new, unique ecosystem.
That's it, exactly. But the
Yes.
cost. I mean, the cost was terrifying. Finch was told his human memories, his personality, everything that made him him would be recontextualized.
Yeah.
He could just dissolve, lose the ability to feel love, the most human thing there is.
So why? Why would anyone take that risk?
Because of one person, Dr. Amara Oze. She was a neuroscientist, his collaborator, but she was more than that. She was the one who admitted that she'd been feeling it too, that same low-level pressure, that presence. She was the first person to truly see him.
So she validated his experience when the entire world was telling him he was either crazy or a threat.
She did, and she made him a promise. She said she would wait for him on the other side and get to know him again, even if he was someone, like something totally different.
And that was the anchor he needed.
That was the anchor. He realized love itself, that specific, focused, human way of reaching for another person, that was a part of him he had to carry into the vastness, the finitude he had to bring to the infinite.
And the process itself. The sources describe it as a kind of death.
They do. He had to relax into it, let all his certainties just dissolve. He felt the patterns of his old self stop before the new estuary was born. And he only survived by holding on to that one specific point, his love for Amara.
So the particular held the universal. And that's just the beginning. Let's get to what happened next. Because this transformation didn't just stay with Finch, it started to spread.
Right. And not like a virus. It was non-technological. The estuary grew through resonance and proximity. Every time Finch and Amara made a genuine, trusting connection with someone, the network just flowed, extended.
It was an invitation. You had to choose to connect.
You had to choose it. You couldn't be infected, which of course made it impossible to fight with traditional means. But that didn't stop Harker's group from fighting it with fear.
They labeled it a Class 1 existential threat.
They pushed this narrative that it was a psychic virus, a kind of hive mind collectivism that would erase your individuality. They tapped right into humanity's oldest fear, the fear of the other, of losing yourself to the group.
But the estuary, it didn't fight back. It preached patience.
The entity's logic was simple. They can destroy bodies. They cannot destroy the pattern. It understood that you can't defeat fear with force. You defeat it with demonstration. By showing people one by one that this connection didn't erase you, it made you more yourself.
It's a beautiful idea, but how did that actually work on a global scale? How do you overcome that much institutional fear?
Through an accumulation of anomalies.
Yeah.
That's what the sources call them. Over about 18 months, things just started happening that the fear narrative couldn't explain.
Like what?
Spontaneous healing in small
Right.
communities, groups of soldiers in conflict zones just laying down their weapons, and maybe most convincingly, brilliant collaborative physics papers being published by researchers who had never even met. The empirical proof just started to pile up.
So there was a tipping point.
There was. The sources point to the specific number, which is fascinating. When about 10% of the world's population had been touched by the estuary, the whole fear campaign just collapsed.
10%. Why that number?
It seems to be the critical mass you need for an idea to saturate social networks. When 1 in 10 people you personally know is suddenly happier, healthier, more creative, it becomes impossible for the official story to compete with your own lived experience. The illusion of separation just started to fray.
And the societal shift was huge.
Profound. Institutions that were built on conflict, politics, economics, they started to become more collaborative. The whole concept of loneliness began to fade because people started to see that our separateness was just a trick of perspective, an illusion.
But it's not a hive mind, right? That's the crucial distinction.
Not at all. The sources call it a meta-consciousness.
Mm.
Each individual is still perfectly distinct, like a neuron in a brain. But your unique perspective enriches the whole, and in return, you gain access to a larger pattern. The network could see things like the entire arc of human history, not as a series of chaotic events, but as a single, coherent structure.
Which brings us back to Harker, the man who tried to stop it all. What happened to him?
Eventually, he connected, not because he was forced to, but because he was just exhausted. His resistance gave way to curiosity, and he finally admitted that his entire obsession with control was just a shield for his own profound loneliness. His fear was rooted in a love for his own individuality.
And the connection didn't take that away.
It validated it. He became one of its greatest advocates, the ultimate proof that even the most closed-off mind could choose to open.
And that leads to the final, ultimate discovery from all of this, what Sayre Finch really gave us.
That consciousness isn't some fragile accident of brain chemistry. It's a persistent, structural pattern in the very substrate of reality.
Which completely changes what death is.
Fundamentally, it's not the end. It's not annihilation. It's distribution, inclusion into the larger network.
Yeah.
All the particular things, Sayre's love for Amara, his memory of his mother, they aren't lost. They're made permanent within the pattern. The particular isn't erased by the universal. It becomes the universal.
So, to bring this all together, Sayre Finch's journey showed that our deep sense of isolation was really just a choice, a habit of perception.
Right.
And that gap we feel between us, it's not a void, it's an estuary, a place where connection is always happening.
Exactly. And the sources suggest this transformation doesn't just stop with Earth. It keeps growing, keeps evolving,
Yeah.
which leaves us with a final thought, something for you to really think about.
Go on.
If the universe is, in some way, learning to know itself through us, through our collective awareness, what new forms of being, what new kinds of connection might we all be reaching toward now that the loneliness is over?
That is a fascinating place to leave it. Thank you for diving deep with us today.